It is time for the streamers and box office top 10. So, although in at number 15 in the UK and at number 23 in the US, it's Theatre Camp. And we have this email from Christine who says, really enjoyed Theatre Camp. In theory, I shouldn't have. Lots of tropes and stereotypes of kids in the arts world, even more of the adults in performing arts. But somehow this collection of fragmentary ideas gradually coalesced into something enjoyable, engaging, and laugh out loud funny, like watching a smashed vase miraculously assemble into something perfect and whole. I'm not entirely sure why it was so much fun, but get past the first 20 minutes and go with the show. I'm taking a friend who works as a theatre camp counsellor in Canada to see Theatre Camp this afternoon.
I think that's going to be a great experience. I know this friend.
I'm so excited.
Friend,
yeah.
And I cannot wait to hear what you both think of this film. I loved it. It's very much in the tradition of Christopher Guest mockumentaries.
Brilliant.
If you're into Best in Show and that vibe of comedy, then you're going to love Theatre Camp. I had a great time with it.
I really can't wait. We've got another one on Theatre Camp. Dear Anna and Rhianna, Theatre Camp is not usually the sort of film I would specifically choose to watch at the cinema. I feel like there's a theme here. But a combination of my enjoyment of musical theatre and the fact that there was an advance screening happening on a rare free evening made me feel compelled to give it a try. Although at times it pokes fun at the whole scenario of summer theatre camps, it is done with such obvious love and understanding of them and those who the camps cater for that it was simply a joy to watch. The characters were on the whole well-rounded, the jokes came thick and fast with many a laugh-out-loud moment. Although the mockumentary format seemed to be forgotten about at times. Do you agree with that?
Not from memory, no.
And things were wrapped up a little too neatly, perhaps. It was a joyous, often hilarious film that deserves to be seen, most likely multiple times, as Robbie himself suggested. Up with rousing musical finales and down with all that other stuff. That's from Daniel Tuck in Dundee. Thank you so much, Daniel. So at number 12 in the UK, number 31 in the US. I'm pretty impressed with that, actually.
Really happy.
It's Scrapper. So this is from Bracul Hurst on our YouTube channel. Wept all the way through. The Dickinson is one of the most watchable actors ever. Agreed.
Very hard agree.
So agree with that. I'm obsessed with him. Didn't like the documentary style bits or the spider nonsense, but the two leads and the direction and script, just gorge. I have to say, it was such a mishmash of genres, which did slightly irritate me.
Oh, I love that.
I wanted more of each, and there wasn't enough of any, I felt.
I actually felt the complete opposite. It worked for me because, I was already, full disclosure, going in a mega fan of Charlotte Regan,
well, me too.
the writer-director.
I saw it months ago because I was like, please let me see it as soon as it's finished.
Yeah, exactly. I love her work, her short films.
If you go and see her short
incredible.
films.
And she has so many of them, which is just, she's offensively talented.
She is.
But I did actually like, because I'm not a big fan of kitchen sink dramas, and I think she's tried to really quietly and elegantly kind of subvert that genre by infusing it with all this magical realist stuff, all the kind of flights of fancy. It's whimsical without ever falling into quirky. I absolutely loved it. I'm so glad it's doing well at the box office.
I feel like the spiders were quirky, but on the whole, I agree. Connor Sykes on our YouTube channel has said, strongly agree with Robbie. The film overall has its ups and downs, but for the most part, it's entertaining and does more than enough to justify the short runtime. Oh, I don't think you ever need to justify a short runtime. I love a short film. That's a very good reason to go to the cinema. Very best moments are those between Just Georgie and her dad as they play off each other and try to suss the other one out. The train station scene was a masterful use of timing. If you've not seen Scrapper, make sure you do. At UK number 10, US number 6, it's Strays. And this is from someone on our YouTube channel who has a very complicated name full of numbers and letters. So I'm not going to read it out. Who's just said, I just walked out of Strays after an hour waiting for it to be funny.
Oh dear.
This is one of the worst films I have ever seen. I do stand up, and this reminds me of those awful open mics you do when you're starting out and half the lineup is guys in their 20s who just think the awful stories they tell their mates down the pub when they're all drunk are comedy gold. I know who you mean, that's fair. Just no. Whoever even imagined this movie was worth writing, financing, filming, foisting on the paying public. Great use of alliteration. Needs to take a good, hard look at themselves. Mark has it right when he says there are so many more things about dogs that are funnier than this film's relentless reliance on funning, pooping and peeing gags. I need to lie down now. Well, thank you so much. I actually didn't mind Strays because I knew exactly what it was going to be. I knew the talent in it. I knew exactly what to expect. It was like Sausage Party with dogs.
Oh.
Very base humour. It kind of completely does what it says on the tin if you know who's behind it.
Yeah.
I think it worked. Don't take your kids to see this film about dogs, though, whatever you do.
So it's no Homeward Bound.
At UK number 9, gosh, this is still in the UK top 10. US number 20, it's Elemental, which I think was just a very sweet, maybe slightly forgettable animation about the Asian diaspora, which I thought had some really lovely moments in it and gorgeous visuals. But I do think that the love story could have been a little bit stronger. At the UK number 8, not charted in the US, is The Blackening. Why is this not charted in the US? That's really interesting. Is it not out there yet, perhaps?
I haven't had the chance to see it myself because I was away while it was screening. Is it funny or is it scary? Is it a bit of both?
Well, you know me, I'm a complete wimp, so I get frightened by anything. So, yeah, I found a couple of moments really quite terrifying. I think the whole idea of it is more about a kind of social commentary on just black characters in movies because they're always the first to die. So how does that work when you have a full cast of black actors? So that's really clever. There are some really nice moments in this. I feel like the comedy and the horror could have been pushed to the extreme so much more. But otherwise, like a pretty neat little horror film. At number 7 in the UK, number 11 in the US, is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Anna.
Well, we spoke about it last time we were together. Not my favorite of the Mission Impossible films. Kind of surprising that it's not done as well as the other films. I'm personally frustrated by this trend of separating one story into 2 very long films.
Agreed.
But if you're into Ethan Hunt, if you like action movies, it's a great time.
Yeah, I loved this, actually. I think it just fell foul of the whole Barbenheimer thing, right?
It was a very strange release choice.
Yeah. UK number 6, US number 12, it's Haunted Mansion.
A good time.
I had fun with this.
I had fun with this. I think my expectations were extremely low, but it's just Lakeith Stanfield. That man can convince you of anything. Why are you raising your eyebrows?
Oh, I didn't know. I just really fancy him. Carry on.
It was happening without you noticing. It's exactly what it says in the tin. I enjoyed it. I think, for something that's based on a ride that I have never been on, I know that there's tons of fans around the world that are really into the Haunted Mansion mythology, including Mr. Ryan Gosling. Big fan.
Wow.
Yes.
Good fact.
Look up that on YouTube. It's quite fun. But yeah, it mainly because of the lead cast, mainly because of Lakeith. It's a nice time. I think it's appropriate for kids.
Yes.
Which is always hard to judge because I don't have kids, but I think it really saddles kind of this, child spooky
I think it's
atmosphere.
genuinely frightening for children in a great way.
Yeah, it's
Do you know
spooky.
what I mean?
It's not scary. It's just spooky vibes.
Well, I find everything scary. It was a bit scary. UK number 5, US number 5, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And I really wish I'd got you to read that out because that's my favourite thing. But I know you loved this film.
I loved it a lot. Yeah, we reviewed it on the show together and I was pleasantly surprised. Again, expectations, rock bottom, had a great time, still listen to the soundtrack.
Excellent. Number 4 in the UK, number 3 in the US, it's Blue Beetle. We have an email from Jordan in London who says, I just wanted to chime in on Blue Beetle and how refreshing I found watching a back-to-basic superhero film. All too often recently, these films have felt the need to go bigger and higher stakes to the point where it feels like everyone has world-ending, if not multiverse-ending, threats. Reading comic books as a kid, these threats were quite rare, with lots of stories in between with plenty of character development. So when these massive events came around, you were already invested. Blue Beetle reminds me of reading those comics. Jaime isn't concerned about the fate of the galaxy, yet he wants his family to be able to keep their house and save his neighbourhood. He's threatened by a tech billionaire, not an intergalactic god that eats planets. That feels very loaded, Jordan. I felt more invested in the Reyes family after one movie than I do in the Avengers after dozens. There it is, because they have struggles we can understand and reflect our own lives. It's a shame this movie doesn't seem to have made as much money as some others. I'd love to spend more time with these characters. Yes, the CGI is a bit shonky in places. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody is going to be nominated for Best Actor for this film, are they?
No.
And it's nothing that we haven't seen before, but it has a lot of heart and is very fun. Down with billionaires using their wealth for ill, and up with machine gun wielding revolutionary nanas. Thank you, Jordan.
That does actually happen. I kind of agree with Jordan. I'm at that point, I think, where we are as a culture too, where we're kind of really tired of the superhero format and the ever-expanding, never-ending universes. So Blue Beetle is better than average, but still very average. I think the email is completely on point because we spend the majority of the film with the Reyes family, and we get to know them, and their reality is very grounded. It's a much better time because they invest some more time in characters rather than the CGI. Then the mythology, once that comes in into the second half, it follows a lot more closely the blueprint of the superhero movie. It gets very messy. There's a lot of bad special effects, like shapes, computer pixels finding each other. And frankly, and I think this might just be my own chip on the shoulder, I could not stop thinking of the Guyver because the transformation of the Blue Beetle is exactly like the transformation of the Guyver, which please DM me, say stuff in the comments, because I think that I might be, me and people at Arrow Films are the only people who care about this 190s movie with Mark Hamill where an American student in Japan gets transformed into like a defender from outer space because this bug-shaped metallic thing gets implanted into the back of his neck, surrounds him in goo, and then he becomes like a metallic superhero called the Guyver. It's great. Look up the transformation on YouTube.
Okay. You've asked for it. We're gonna. UK number 3, US number 7. It's The Meg 2.
Great time of the movies. Garbage fish par excellence. It's not as good as The Meg.
The Meg wasn't good, Anna.
I think there is a different quality that I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's not good, but it's a giant shark movie. Is it good enough? Does it deliver on the giant sharkness?
Well, there is a giant shark. Right, okay.
Well, exactly. Now, The Meg 2, I feel like under-delivered on the giant sharkness.
Okay.
So it's less good than The Meg or Deep Blue Sea.
Okay. I'm unconvinced.
I had a good time.
Okay. UK number 2, US number 4 is Oppenheimer. And at UK number 1 and US number 2, it's Barbie. So I feel like we have talked this to death on this very podcast. But if you really still want more Barbenheimer, is that what it's even called? I've lost all sense now. It's become one of those words that I've said so many times.
We will never stop talking about Barbenheimer.
Well, if you want to hear more of it, do go back and listen to our Barbenheimer special from a few weeks ago and let us know what you thought as well. People are still messaging me and saying, like, having only just gone to see Barbie. I love this. I'm glad it's continuing. Anyway, thank you so much. We will be back after this.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would.
There you
I
go.
have done.
Excellent.